Well, good morning. Happy Monday. It's a little before 8 Pacific. Gulfstream Park on a Monday. I think what they're doing this for I don't know, 6, 8 weeks or something, but Gulfstream Park race on a Monday. We handicapped it last night, just made a few updates. There were some scratches. Probably the most notable towards the end of the card. Um but Justin Equinedge, if you're just joining, covering Gulfstream Park, all Royal Palm meet. Today is day 50 of the Royal Palm meet. I will tell you, Mr. Sammy Camacho, nowhere to be found. I haven't heard. So if you know, feel free to drop it in the chat. But he was leading at the meet, and he has not been riding the last few days. So I don't know where Sammy Camacho Sr. is. His son here, but Sammy is not. So maybe he taken some time off. But Diego Herrera leading in the rider standings. Miguel Vasquez having another solid meet, riding well. And then, of course, Safi leading in the trainer standings always at Gulfstream Park. But let's jump in. Strongest opinion coming race 8, so we will get there. But the early pick 5, I don't know. The race 3 had a lot of scratches in it. But the first race here, for me, Come On Poppy might be a single. This is not a great maiden claiming group. Has hit the board in 5 of 8. I did cut the 6 and 9. But I thought the 5, if I thought there was enough speed here on the grass that it probably come back, and the 5 should be rolling late. So I had the 5 on top, and again, I didn't really find much other that I loved enough to single. I didn't go narrow in race 4, but you can see we're gonna get speed from the 1 and 10 for sure. We might see some others. The 10 should run a good race on the front end. That was my third pick, but I was 5, 3, 10, 8, 4, but the 5 might be a single. Come on, Poppy. If you're an E user, anytime you see those yellow dots means there's a note on there. But you look at Come on, Poppy, Diego rides, leading jockey. Barbosa Jr. second and wins with 23, but Safi got 32. He'll win the trainer title easy. But Barbosa and D'Angelo kind of going to battle it out probably for second with Carlos David. But last out just missed. You look here, was on the Tapeta, second fly, 4 wide, rallied up for second. They moved to the grass to 8 furlongs. I mean, these efforts back here versus 42 and 44 should beat this group. It's a pretty weak group. But again, I thought the 3 had a look at a price. You can see taking some morning action, and the 10 with speed could be dangerous up front. The apprentice rides, Pena is riding really well, 14% at the meet, but 5, 3, 10, 8, 4, but 5 might be single. Race 2, we don't see any scratches, but I thought this was a competitive 10,000 claimer. I did not love the 2, the morning line favorite. I do think this horse fits, but I don't think necessarily is, just going to dominate this race. I was 3, 6, 2, 4. Again, not a big opinion. You'll see Mary Marguerite. This, might on top. Maybe that's another place you look to try to go narrow here. Wins the race sim. The 2 runs a good race. So that was my alternative, probably. Single to 5 maybe in the first, or maybe again, I put the 3 on top. Gets the genetic strength rating increase. That's our distance surface metric. Has burned money, but is dropping in strength of race, right? If you're an E user, you'll see my analysis down here, but you get a 14-point increase in genetic strength rating on the move over to the dirt, and has been on the dirt once before. So if you don't like horses doing something for the first time, it's not the first time, it's the second time. I don't like the burning the money, but this is a much easier group. That's a 6-point strength of race drop. That's our class metric. And anything 2 to 4 points is material. So that's a material drop there. And again, burn money gets back to the dirt. You look on the race sim, speed always kind of dangerous on the main track. Speed dangerous at Gulfstream in general. But might get to the front and just make it difficult. It takes a lot of pressure. It could kind of mix up the race, but could get to the front and just be better than this group on the drop. And then you look Goldfaxi, Castro, owner, trainer. He does a lot of this. Tori Alba rides. I wouldn't look too much into that, only 3%. But this kid, again, he came way out of up in Maryland, I think. But, second off the layoff, takes a drop as well. So Castro got this from the David barn. But I like the 3 better than the 2, honestly, right? So that's race 2. This race got kind of decimated by scratches. My top, I like the 4 and the 1, and they both scratched. So then it turned into just kind of a madness for me. They're on the Tapeta, they're sprinting 5, they've all been running. The 7, the kind of least accomplished. The 7 and 2 have no speed, so I didn't really like them. I kind of default into the 5, but I don't like the EA morning line there, which tells me this race a little more wide open. But again, I like the 1 and 4. They scratch out 5, 6, 8. But the 5, is my original kind of what I think 3rd pick or 4th pick. The 6 might wire the field, but 5 win the race sim fairly easily. They're both right there at the stretch. I don't like the 7, just mainly because this horse 0 for 9. You look at Starship Spectacle. I mean, has been racing at this 12-5 level. It can't win, but this is a bad group. But you look at Bassett. I mean, takes a big drop. As long as this horse can run for Heather, it should be tough. And then Arias doesn't win a lot. Small barn, but he's a homebred here for Pedro and Angel. So might get the win in this 12-5 claimer, so 5, 6, 8 there in race 3. Race number 4. I was probably narrowed to 4-2 here. I would say I had a little bit of interest in the 1 and 5. So, but Lindsay Smiles and Spicy Princess I thought would be tough. You can see on our win percentage, show this race wide open. They're on the grass. There's not a lot of speed, which is why I like Lindsay Smiles. And Lindsay Smiles, also the Scotty Long shot, has a 5-2 E morning line off a 6-1 line. Gonna have that kind of outside speed with Bayou Bridget on the rail. But look how close the whole field is there at the 3rd call. And then you see Spicy Princess kind of come at the stretch and take over. But I did think Lindsay Smiles, that's who I put on top, could be dangerous. And we look again, that top, we can have the 6 back. That top pace figure, the 6, this cheap speed. Don't like it all. Comes off the dirt. I don't think the transition first time on the turf here is what this horse wants to do. And horses like this, I just like to cut. So I think we'll inject some pace. And you look at Lindsay Smiles, right? I mean, 1 stalking the pace, 1 on the lead, has some tactical speed. Will have to improve for Orsino, but Edwin G going to have her probably fairly close, I would say. Does a great job out of the gate, Edwin does, and rides well on speed horses. So, and then if we look at Spicy Princess, it's a being Cohen runner, leading rider. Diego rides, takes a big drop out of the Honey McBride. You look 2 back versus 70. I mean, kind of what happened here. Went on the layoff, shows up for an allowance optional claim. I mean, should be tough here. And that's where I thought maybe, if you're playing horizontals, you get through with just a couple here. The 2 strongest GSRs of the group. Again, that's our surface and distance metric. And you look at this group, I mean, they've all been racing. And then you look at the surface, right? The 2 hasn't won was a little bit of a concern. The 4 only been 1 time, but the 2 is 0 for 5 at 8 furlongs. And that's what made me like, well, maybe the 1 and 5 fit here. You look at, Bayou, 1 last out, stalking the pace, came out of the Martha Washington there on the Tapeta, but gets back to the turf, and then we look at Olivia. If somehow the pace kind of fall apart, this horse be running late, you're getting a good price, 7-2 on the E morning line. So early sequence, I thought it was a little bit difficult, but again, I think you could single race 1. I had the 5 on top, or race 2 to 3, maybe one of those. I struggled with this race. Outside post, difficult for complex, for sure could win. I had DeMonte Grass on top, probably going to be your favorite. But I also thought Tall Story or Operation Torch, as long shot looks, had a look. And then if you're spreading, I think the 9, 10, 8 all had looks too, but not a big opinion for me in race 5. So we'll keep going. And yeah, I would say, going back, the mandatory. So a couple things every Monday, right? Gulfstream Park can do mandatory pick six. So if it doesn't get hit, which a lot of times it probably won't with a single ticket, right? Single ticket got hit. They'll pay out mandatory on Monday. So every Monday mandatory. But I think there's about 90 grand in the pool today. So 90 grand of free money if you want to play the mandatory pick six will start in race number 4. My single be race 8. So we'll talk about that. But race 5 again, thought was pretty tough open. Race 6, I put Vermont on top. I didn't really fully know what to do with High Ambition because there's no work videos, and I do think Lord Henry. That's always a dangerous angle. The first time starter Scotty Longshot is always a dangerous angle there. It has done very well over the years. It always finds good angles with first time starters, and I thought had a look, but I think a lot of people are a lot of money going to flow in on Vermont. Um, wasn't really a fan of Road to Midnight. An Epic Impact I didn't really trust, but the 5 has speed, showed good gauge speed and works. Did not win on debut, but now has experience as the really nice genetic strength rating. So I think will run a good race on the turf. But if that horse take a lot of pressure going 5 and gets caught in between or has some trouble, I do think it could set up for the 4 and 6. I don't mind singling or really pressing an opinion in a maiden, but you look at Vermont, gets over to the turf, the genetic strength rating goes up, which is a good thing. Ran a good race here, probably going to get to the lead for Micah Husbands, and Mr. Mark Cassidy. He's saying he in like sixth and wins, I think. But he doesn't necessarily always have strong Gulfstream Royal Palm meets during the summer, right? He sent his good horses elsewhere. But I think could be dangerous here. Did burn money first time out, but drops a couple points in SOR. And then the two firsters for me were the 4 and 6. I did watch some works on Lord Henry. The June 21st work is good. It's strong. I think this horse is fit and ready. Then you have a 5 furlong work here on the Tapeta, and then they show up going 5 on the grass. So I think Orsino done a good job. He and Edwin team up often. I think a nice price. And then the D'Angelo runners, the question. Jose does do well with firsters, does well with 2-year-olds. You look here, that's a great work here. That's a nice work. But they're all at Palmetto, so I couldn't find any videos, so I couldn't really get a good read. But you have a strong GSR. We talk about that, right? Not bad, right? Third. And I mean, so it's D'Angelo. He's been doing really good. He's up to 3rd in wins. He was 5th or 6th, so he's been climbing the ranks. I think this one probably can run. So 5, 6, 4. Race. I thought the Tapeta races I thought were tough, and that's not uncommon. So a couple other things, and we'll get through these races and I'll let you all go. We try to do these about 10 to 15 minutes, so we'll be right on there. I thought that any one of these 6 could win. Definitely was one of the tougher. I thought this was probably the last race. I think is a question too, because I don't trust the favorite in the last. So, but I thought this was pretty wide open. I think you can get a price. So, a couple things. They have that mandatory pick 6 every Monday. Great for retail players. Free money. It can be 90,000 in the pool today, and then they have some player friendly takeout bets. I think they're 15%, if I remember correctly. They're 15%. So if you like the place pick 8, place pick all, it's only 8 races. They're doing that. I don't play that bet, but if you like to play that bet, and then they have 2 good bets. If most people are familiar with these, they have a $3 late pick 3 with a 15% takeout, and then they have a $5 late daily double with a 15% takeout. So it helps a retail player, right? When you have low takeout like that. But I'd be spread here. I don't. That's a tough post for Saratoga Flash. You only get 1 scratch. Outside posts can be pretty brutal on the Tapeta, or in general, right? I mean, maybe a little bit different, like turf sprint or stuff like that. The horse does have speed, though, so I will give you that. But I thought this wide open. I mean, look at all the genetic strength rating at SOR. The 11 is taking a drop, so it's going to go off as the favorite. But I had this horse uh, sixth out of my. I put that horse last with these. I think you can beat the favorite in this race. I think you can get a price. I think it could live in one of these space launch, the long shot. I put on top. I was 9-3-1. And then if you're spreading, which in like the pick three, I'd single in the next race. And we'll talk about that, maybe the 8, 10, 11. But I try to beat the 11 here. You can see on the race sim the 3-1 right there. Davy Cross has speed. Corda Fuego going to be closing there. You look, drops in SOR a little bit. We talk about the 9 space launch a little bit. Not winning, been facing this group, but been right there. Should get a good stocking trip. Does get one scratch, so that does help out a little bit. Should be able to find a spot and be able to sit off that speed. And then I think you caught about half the field, right? So, all right. Let's keep rolling. 2 more races. Best bet of the day here. Wine Candy. I only liked the 3 and 4 in this race, and right before I got on, I updated the sheet, do a video. The 4 scratch, so we default into a single. They were the only 2 I liked in this race. Speed on the main track. There's not a lot here. This horse is dropping, has the strongest GSR. I maybe take a little bit of pressure, but I think Wine Candy can be on the lead or just sit right off this horse and then take over going 6. And I didn't really trust the closers here on the main track. I know the 5 you can see is closing there with the double blue arrow, but I think Morning Line doesn't like his second pick. I mean, not a bad exacta, honestly. If you can get the 2 or 7 out of there, maybe an exacta play, 3 over the 5, you're going to get great odds. And then again, I'd single here in the late pick 3. Talked about that, $3. And then the late double, you could single here as well. We missed yesterday. We just missed that late daily double. It was like 12-1. That 4 horse stopped last minute. Full field, maiden special, ended. The 9 is extreme money burner for Bing Cone. Would be my vulnerable favorite of the day, and or the 11 in race 7. But Warrior Sophie I put on top. Edwin Gonzalez on the turf with speed. Safi got the 4. Keepsake box always places his horses in the right spot. And then I do think Curly Sue probably run a good race. If you're deep spreading, you probably could add the Scotty Longshot. And then I'll talk about the 8 Lady Sharma as well. But you look, I always tell people, if you don't like a horse, even though it win the race in like that, just cut the horse, right? And there it is, 3 and 4 right there, both going to be good prices. But, when you look at Alanique, I mean, here's the thing. Been racing at this maiden special or maiden claiming level and has no speed on the turf. And Edwin can do a great job in these others up front. This horse burned money in 4 of 7. I really struggle to bet horses like this, and I just always keep that opinion. GSR is strong, but a true definition of a money burner, losing 4 of 7 races at the favorite. Being coned, he goes to Diego to try to help here. He hasn't necessarily had any great jocks up at the championship meet. Ran, I think, once here at the Royal Palm meet. Burn money again. The horse couldn't get up. I mean, the front end might be a little bit contentious, but I don't think they're flying. And this horse does show close to lead, but just doesn't like to win. It's a problem for me. And again, try to beat these horses. You look at Warrior Sophie coming from tougher, has run back-to-back great races. Edwin up front, Dave Fox, 27%. Guy has a great meet. He just doesn't have a lot of runners. Very, very dangerous there with Warrior Sophie. Keepsake box, the Safi runner, dropping 6 points in SOR. That's very material, right? And ends up as the second pick. And Curly Sue, a lightly raced D'Angelo. Again, that's why it makes it tough. Not a strong GSR in the move to turf, but horses can win like this when they go from the dirt to the turf, two sprints to a route. The I don't talk a lot about 1% horses, but this horse in a race like this did interest me a little bit. Looks to be a homebred. I don't know this group of Sarah Farrell and Roger Benedict Farrell, but and then the trainer doesn't do well. But if you're spreading this, these are all farm works, right? And does have a strong GSR, and in a race like this that's just kind of brutal, if you're deep spreading, you're getting a bomb there. But tough look. But I was 6-3-8-4 trying to beat the 9. All right, y'all. As I mentioned, late pick 3, player friendly, 15% takeout, late daily double, best bet of the day in race 8, the 3, and maybe a little bit of a whoops. Hold on. Race 8, the 3 horse, and maybe as we mentioned, a 3-5 exacta they're gonna get great odds there. You're probably gonna get 10-15 to 1. So, but single of the day would be race 8, the 3, and or if you're playing early, the strongest opinions were race 1, the 5 horse, and race 2, the 3 horse. Maybe one of those. All right, y'all. We'll be back not till Saturday. It's nice we get a little bit of a break, a little bit long today since it was the first one. Happy Monday. Have a great week. And you got some racing at Gulfstream Park and MLB Home Run Derby today and then All-Star Game tomorrow. Appreciate you all. Thanks for joining. We'll be back soon. Good luck today.